This is Zion in Mind podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Johnson. We'd like to welcome you to the show. If you're visiting for the first time, we are filming here at the University Place Mall in our store at Temple in Mind. But again, we are the Zion in Mind podcast, and I'm here with my two friends, Bonnie and Leland Coford.
Yes.
Coford, I got it.
Yes.
That's a trick. That's a trick. I like it actually though, because it's unique to you guys.
Yes.
I don't know of anybody else with the last name Coford. What's your kind of history with that?
It's Danish.
Is it Danish?
English, yes.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah.
And so tell us a little about who you are and what you do and why you're here.
Well, we are couples coaches.
Okay.
We do that, and we also do individual life coaching.
Okay.
And so we have several things that we do to help couples strengthen a relationship.
Get their connection.
Absolutely.
Make sure that their connection is strong so
Okay.
that the family's strong.
Now, I gave you guys some homework over the weekend, and you wrote up a little piece here, and I think this is fantastic. I want to read this real quick. Is that okay?
Yes.
All right, so it's a little introduction. So to today's guest, offer in-person classes and webinars to build a strong connection in relationships and provide couples coaching for personalized support for those who want to avoid divorce or even simply want to take their marriage up to the next level. If you're experiencing silent treatments, long arguments, or anything in between, you can reach them at support@upstepdevelopment.com. I'm going to repeat that again. That is support@upstepdevelopment.com. So, yeah, we'd like to welcome you guys to the show.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
And we were having an amazing conversation. Was it Friday?
Yes.
It was Friday, and we were talking, man, we talked about a lot of things. I think we sat down and talked for almost, 2 hours?
2
It
hours.
was really close to 2 hours, yeah.
And so that synergy, I never want to ignore that because it's not very often. I kind of imagine maybe the podcast will evolve to some old men on a porch with lemonade with their rockers just because I turn 40 soon, and I feel like I'm getting old.
Just
but
a young kid.
I'm just a young kid.
Yes.
I feel old. I don't know. Maybe it's just life in general. But we had kind of gone back and forth about different ideas that we could talk on the podcast. I'm not a person that likes to script things out. That probably drives a lot of people crazy just because they don't know how I'm going to left hook them here soon and put them on the spot. But I think that's good because you guys are primed and ready to go and a lot of experience in what you're doing. And I'm sure as you sit down and talk with people, you don't know what's going to come. And so I kind of prepped them a little bit before the show, but I wanted to focus on a word called Zion in nature. There's 2 companies that I'm building, and the second one that we're building is called Zion noiZ Entertainment. That is who is presenting this podcast. But Zion in nature, when we use that word, we automatically think religion. And so do you mind if we just talk a little bit about what we discussed before this podcast?
Absolutely. That'd be great.
So you tell me, what is Zion to you guys?
Zion is a place where people gather together to be able to be united in one thought and one purpose.
Yeah, one thought, one purpose. Yes.
And there's multiple different ways that Zion can be built.
Right.
But the Zion that we look for is the Zion that pertains to family.
Right.
And
so we like to have our home be our little teeny mini Zion.
Right.
That's kind of what we
that's
And
where we're at.
concentrate on.
In our culture, I like to describe it as a nice high concentration of Kool-Aid. Not that it's bad in nature, it's just that it's good to have a nice little mix, right? So if you go outside of Utah, and if you've ever had that experience of living outside of Utah, the word Zion is actually more common. It's quite surprising that the word Zion is thrown around in all sorts of different things. Another word that a lot of people use is tribe or my clique or whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. But so there's 2 interesting words to me that are, I think, phenomenal, that they've been warped and changed and adapted, and then now in the Urban Dictionary they are defined differently. And the 2 words that I want to talk about are faith and Zion. Faith in general is just, what's your faith? Oh, what's my religion? When in reality, the definition of faith is things that are unseen that have yet to develop. So the same thing goes with Zion. Zion in nature is actually not necessarily a religious thing. It's used as a religious thing because that's where it's always commonly used as, oh, we're all the same faith, There it is right
Yep.
there. And so we're all in the same Zion. And so the Association of Mormonism, or the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, as they use it in Utah, they think that Zion is proprietary to the church, and it's not. It's actually, when you go out into other people's faith or religions, they have their own utopia. And so for our podcast and what you guys do, which I think is awesome, by the way, and I'm actually a little bit jealous, is you work with couples and families. And so how does this relate to Zion? Because I want to tie in the fact that our society in general is in decay.
It is very much so in decay. You look around everywhere, and there are people that are hurting in their relationships, and it's affecting the family. And the family is deteriorating on a rapid rate.
Right.
And this COVID hasn't helped.
No, it hasn't. And now we're isolated, separating, and now we're on our own, right?
Yep.
And so Zion in nature, let's just change that word just a little bit and just look at the society structure. So society in its form, we have looked at great societies like Alexandria and Rome, and every one of them have crumbled to the ground. And I do believe the family was attacked first. I don't know, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I've actually done a lot of study on that, and you're right. The first thing to go with the society is the family. And the first thing that seems to be under attack is the family.
Yes.
Right. And you have arts, you have education, and then you have family. And there's this pattern that we've seen with society. And we know through Scripture, I mean, you can go to the Bible, the Book of Mormon, or wherever it might be, you see this pattern developing. And it usually is between 300 to 500 years is all that we seem to be able to sustain.
Yes.
And so we're not exempt from those same traditions, those same, I mean, was it, I'm going to quote this, we're going to need to look it up later, but something to the effect of, if you want to keep a society governed, give them bread and give them circus.
Oh dear.
Have you heard that? I think it was Caesar. Okay, don't quote me on that. We're going to find the actual source. We'll put it in the podcast. But the fact is, you give them bread and you give them circus. And so that's all you got to do to keep people at bay. And then you can go do whatever you want, right? Now, I don't want to get into the rabbit hole and get all conspiracy theories and all these different things. That's not this format. I just want to focus on the family and nature, because the destruction and the decay of the family, I think that there are powers that be, or whatever it might be, that doesn't like this family organization. What has been your guys' experience with the development of children if a family is together as a whole?
Exactly. And that's where it hurts, is the children. The children are affected the most. You know, most adults, they can govern their own selves, even though that they struggle. They have this struggle within themselves when they're going through trials and tribulations and challenges. But it's the children who do not have the coping skills,
right,
as an adult.
Well, and they shouldn't.
Right?
It's our job to teach them that, right?
Well, and to protect
and to develop
them.
it and protect them.
And
right.
protect them,
yeah.
right? And so to my understanding and what I've seen throughout the many times that we've been mentoring and coaching people, is that the attack on the mother especially, and is what is getting the family to be crumbling. It's the wife.
On Friday, didn't we?
Yeah.
When we talked about the studies of microloans in third world countries, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They loan the money to the wife or the woman.
Exactly.
Because they know they're going to get a return. They know they're going to get the bookkeeping done right, not the guy.
Right. Right.
They know that statistically it's proven that if they loan the microloan out to the male, guess what ends up happening? It's gone. It's never returned. It's the wife. And so isn't it interesting how you brought that up, that the wife or the woman are attacked first? In our last podcast, we had my parents on here, and we talked about the miracle of birth. We talked about how being a mother and making the decision to have a second child when it was so hard for the first child, and that sacrifice that they made, it doesn't surprise me the power that comes from family is the woman,
Yes.
is the wife. absolutely agree with that. But I look at my own household, it is completely governed by my wife. Absolutely. We're doing what she says. And so if she's attacked, yeah, I agree.
Yep.
You guys have some really great literature on your website. I love it. And I'm going to try to quote it from memory. But it's basically talking about giving the power within, the power of the person themselves.
Yes.
You don't tend to focus towards all of these bells and whistles or gimmicks and snake oils of, oh, if you're wealthy or you're rich or whatever it might be, or your career, or you guys focus on the internal power. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure. It's important for each person to be strong in and of themselves.
Right.
It's important for them to know how they work. And if you know how you work, you also know how your partner works.
Right.
And if you understand how you work, then you can be strong in yourself.
Hence the name UpStep Development,
Yes,
correct?
Absolutely.
Right.
And so if I'm strong and if Bonnie's strong, then we can be strong together.
Yes.
And if we're strong together, then our family can be strong.
There was somebody very famous, and I'm not going to quote them because I don't want to get hit here, but they talked about their relationship, which, by the way, they have since gone through a divorce. And in this early broadcast or whatever this person was talking about, he talked about being on two different paths with their spouse and how it's not my job if they're happy. It's their life and they're living it, and hopefully we're going the right direction. And I thought, you know what, that is super sad, because in reality, that's not what you're talking about, Leland. You're talking about you can't be able to help someone else if you first can't help yourself. Is that correct? Is that kind of what you're describing right now?
Yes.
Absolutely. You need to have unity, if for no other reason than to have the synergy together.
Synergy. That's a powerful word.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And so a chain is only as strong as the weakest link. And if there's only a 2-link chain,
Right.
and if I'm weak and Bonnie's strong, then we don't form a strong chain between us. We don't form a strong marriage.
Union.
A union.
Yeah.
Union.
Okay.
Yeah. And the connection can break easily at any point in any time with any kind of a stress that comes up, right? And so if you develop within yourself the strength to know who you are, the power within yourself will then shine forth and can then strengthen your partner also. Not that I have to strengthen my partner, Leland, needs to strengthen himself, but as coming together, then we become very strong, and that link cannot be broken.
This is a very interesting approach to me, because we're all talking about being one. That's our goal here. But you guys are talking about a step prior. And that is not a selfish motive, not of what am I going to get? What is this person going to deliver to me?
Exactly.
It's going to be like, what am I doing as a person as developing myself so that I am of value to other people?
Exactly.
So it's not just necessarily within the marriage. It could be in your workplace as well. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It involves any kind of a relationship anywhere, whether it's work, it's a neighbor, it's church, it's society in a whole.
Right.
So you develop yourself and then you can give to others.
And talking about the maintenance of a family and the maintenance of a marriage in general, I think it's crazy that we tend to get counseling or coaching, in this case coaching, a little too late, in my opinion. We had talked about before the podcast about if you're going to get your oil changed in your car, the recommended mileage that you're supposed to do is between 3,000 to 6,000 or whatever it might be. But how many people leave their oil not unchanged? Now we're in 7, 8, 9,000, and now they're starting getting a sound out of their car. So we're talking about, why is it that we're getting help or professional help or whatever it might be a little too late, or when things are probably a little bit past the point? So when we come back from our break, I want to focus on the fact that how we need coaching now. Even when we think our marriage is great, we need it right now. In fact, we should add it into our studying and the things that we do for the family. So stay tuned for these messages from our sponsors. Thank you.
This episode's sponsor is UpStep Development. Today's guests offer in-person classes and webinars to build a strong connection in relationships and private couples coaching for personalized support for those who want to avoid divorce or simply want to take their marriage up to the next level. If you are experiencing silent treatments, loud arguments, or anything in between, You can reach them at support@upstepdevelopment.com.
Welcome back to the Zion in Mind podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Johnson. We are here with Leland and Bonnie, who are life coaches. They are family development coaches. Man, there's a lot of things that we can put on titles here. I think it's fantastic. They are with UpStepDevelopment.com. And Leland, over the break, brought up a really good point that I mentioned before the break. I was talking about my wife. Do you want to just pick up from there? He started doing some coaching for me. I didn't realize I was doing something I shouldn't be doing. So please. I love this, by the way. It's always invited. Please help me.
Absolutely. One of the most common things that I've ever heard from men is happy wife, happy life.
That's how I was raised.
Right. And that's probably one of the most dangerous things that a man can say.
Really?
It does two things. One, it poisons his own thoughts.
Okay.
And it disappoints his wife.
Okay, I'm listening. You've got me intrigued. I don't know if I show this podcast to my wife, but please share with me. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. No, really. Okay, so happy wife, happy life it's dangerous.
Yes. Well, to start, it says my happiness is dependent upon my wife.
Yes.
And that's not true at all.
Yeah.
And secondly, it kind of has you how should I put this?
Well, I think that I think the intentions of the man when he starts doing that is good. I think that he's trying to think provider or trying to think service oriented. At least I hope is if my wife's happy, that's kind of a good measure that I'm doing it right. Mm-hmm. But you're talking about self-empowering, right?
Right.
And so that's not self-empowering. You're dependent upon somebody else's happiness to whether to regulate that you're good.
Well, not only does it have you as dependent upon her, but it also disappoints her in that you come from a little boy position.
Okay.
You don't step up as a leader in your home, and you. When I was selling furniture, so many times a man would come in, and just flop down on the couch, and say as soon as his wife has chosen something, she's going to go. And we're going to buy it. But the two of them would she would want his input and he wouldn't give it.
Okay.
And so people, they don't realize how important it is to be strong in yourself.
Right.
So that when your wife wants you to make a decision, you're strong in yourself to make that decision.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
Oh, I was going to say, most women want their man to have an opinion. If their man does not,
whoa. Okay, say that again. We have this in recording. I love this. Okay, keep going.
Yes, most women want their man to have an opinion.
People that are listening to this podcast, notice that she did not say that women want to be governed, or women want to have a master, or women want to be controlled. She said an opinion.
Yes.
That's a very good choice of words, because just because it's an opinion doesn't mean that they're going to listen to it, right?
That's correct.
It's a suggestion, right?
Yes.
And so that's kind of what I love about your guys' title, coaching. Let's look at that word, because as we're developing as people, there's a difference between being a critic and a coach. Can you talk a little bit about that? And I don't know if I'm kind of throwing a right hook at you. I think there's a difference between building someone up and trying to win gold together versus like I'm the person that's analyzing this report or this theater performance or this and not even actually being more of a spectator and looking at someone saying, this is no good. Don't go see this, whatever. And you're usually pulling somebody down, but versus coaching versus criticism. And I think that goes back to listening to that. You're talking about your husband being more of a coach, right? Am I steering that incorrectly, or?
Yes. Well, no, because the coaching in the essence is that one is more controlling or more in a position where they are more of the say.
Right.
Where in a relationship, when you have the husband and wife, they should be as a unit.
Right.
Right. And so if my husband is not having an opinion on something, I feel like he's absent.
Yeah.
And if he's absent, then my union with him is weak. And with that, then I feel like I am then raising a little boy instead of having a partnership with a man. And so if my husband has a relationship with me, he's going to give his opinion. Now, that doesn't mean that I have to agree with him, does not mean that I have to then bow to him with whatever he says. No, it means that we can discuss what is being said and then can come to a conclusion.
Right.
Right.
So back to the guy that flopped on the couch in the sales floor. He's making her do all the work.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's not what a woman wants. She wants a partner, not someone to shove off all the responsibility for the decisions onto her.
Yeah, it's overwhelming for women, right?
So is it safe to say that the result of, so when you're empowering yourself, okay, and I hope I'm getting this correctly because I'm learning, okay, when you're empowering yourself, the happiness of the other person is usually just a result, not necessarily the actual cause and effect. Is that the right way I'm saying that?
Absolutely.
Like I go out of my way all the time to buy the flowers, and that's great, and to try to do my part in what I can.
Right.
But I still find my wife is not happy.
Yes.
And I think it's back to what you guys are talking about, self-empowering, because I think that it creates a tone in the home.
Absolutely.
If I am in check. And I look to look more towards like a religious side of it, like my spirituality is in check.
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying to do things that are in line with my faith in general.
You see, I wouldn't use the word self-empowering.
Self-empowering.
I would use the word being strong in myself.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a subtle difference, but it's an important difference.
Because powering represents that people are following and you're over them.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
So
yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to play off with what you just said.
Oh, no. Here we go.
Here we go. So with you then bringing home the flowers and the candy and all of that.
Uh-oh. I know where this is going. Yes, I did something wrong.
No, you didn't.
No,
You didn't
no.
do anything.
No, I mean to cause the flowers. There was definitely something I did,
Oh,
and
okay.
I needed the flowers. Yes, but no, sorry. I don't know if that's where you were going.
Confession time. Yeah, and so that's wonderful that you could bring the flowers and you can bring the candy because you're thinking of her, right? Now, with the confession that you're making up for something, that's a whole different story, right? But in the essence that you're trying to please her.
Yeah.
You're trying to make her happy with you.
Right.
And so then you're giving away your power.
So you're saying we shouldn't buy flowers?
I'm saying that you have to look at why you're doing it.
Yeah,
right?
intention.
Intention.
Intention
So,
is everything. I know I tease a
Exactly.
lot, but that
Yes.
is really what it is.
It is.
Intention.
It
And
is.
what's really funny about our story is I bought the flowers. We end up going over to my sister's house, and she ends up giving them to my sister, saying, "Oh, they're from us. Here you go." Because we have a really good relationship with my sister. They're really good friends. And I was like, "Oh, I bought those for you." But back to your intentions. I mean, who cares if they got passed from me to my wife to now to my sister? And I made a joke about it, but your intentions. So now that intention just passed forward. And so why does it matter that it ended up in my sister's house and still is there right now? Because there's 12 dozen roses, right? Or a dozen roses, excuse me. So intentions. So talk more a little bit about intentions, because I think there's a lot more here. The intentions, because it's not just about flowers, is it?
It's not. So back to happy wife, happy life,
Yes.
right? So you're trying to make the wife happy. But in reality, what you're trying to do is appease her,
Right.
right?
Yeah, it's a huge difference.
Yes, there is. It's a big chiasm right there. And so if you can do it, that you're in a place where you are connecting with her instead of appeasing her, then you're stepping into your power.
Right.
If you can step into your power and bring your side, your personality, your gifts, your talents into the marriage, and then she's able to do the same thing, and you meet in the middle, and that connection and that synergy happens right there. Right. But if you're always in a position where you are weak and you're trying to appease her by bringing her flowers, your weakness is then debilitating. It's destroying the relationship because you're not stepping up into your own power. And then she then feels like she has a little boy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I prefer the phrase happy life, happy wife.
Ooh, say that again.
Yeah.
Happy life, happy wife. Now, I bring Bonnie flowers.
Yes. And I
But
love it.
But I don't do it to appease her. I do it because I'm happy.
And you love her.
And I want to share that happiness with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's the difference between celebration versus I'm sorry.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's celebration and I'm sorry, and even just I'm doing my duty.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is not, I don't bring flowers to Bonnie because it's a duty.
And to
I
our
do it because I'm happy and I want to share that happiness
and to
with her.
our listeners, we're just using flowers as an example. This is everything. This is like simple things like filling the gas tank up in the car instead of like pushing that responsibility on someone else, and then you go to the car and it's empty. Or that can go both ways, right? Or the laundry or the dishes, or it's not just flowers. We're talking about making an environment, and in today's society, I think it's very impossible for us to assign roles. Do you see that there's some mistakes that are made per se in assigning roles and tasks, and that's your job and this is my job? What are your thoughts on that?
And that's a whole nother gamut.
Yeah, I know, right?
of a hole that we could go down. But yes, and it has to do with the unity again.
Does it really matter whose job it is?
No,
As far as tasks are concerned, no.
not at all.
But roles are important.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm listening.
It's important because by nature, men have I don't know what to call it.
The nature of?
By
The
nature,
tendencies.
they are leaders. They provide, preside, and protect. A woman doesn't want a man. Even the strongest women that I know don't want a little boy as a husband. They want someone that can provide for them. They want someone that can protect them.
Right.
And the preside sometimes becomes a little sticky wicket, if you will. Preside doesn't mean boss. What it means is take responsibility for.
Yes.
Ooh, okay. You got to say that again, because I know there's a lot of people that are gritting their teeth right now, like, I don't need no man. But what you just said, I think, is the key. Say that again. Do you mind?
Okay. All three. The first one is a woman doesn't want to have to be responsible for her own protection and providing. Even the strongest...
Or at least complimenting too. Like, I love the fact that my wife knows how to use a gun.
Oh,
And
sure.
We'll go down the... I don't want to go down that. Okay. We could go down that. But I love the fact that if I'm not there, she knows how to take care of it too. Right.
Absolutely.
But that's not exactly what you're talking about. So
No, what I'm talking about is she wants a man to be... in a husband, a woman wants a man who will step up and be a man. She wants him to be able to protect and provide for her. And she also wants a man who's willing to take responsibility for the decisions that are made, thus preside.
So he just put a definition in the woman's mind. So now you do it for the men. Do opposite. What is it that you think a woman in the opposite?
Yes, a woman wants her man to preside, provide, and
Right,
protect.
But what else do you think that he wants from you, and vice versa? See how I'm flipping it here?
Okay, so as far as what he wants from me,
Is it go make me a sandwich? No,
Not at all.
Not at all. No, I don't
It's-
want people warping this.
it's-
This is not what they're talking about.
it's the connection.
It's the connection.
It's the
right.
connection that he
Right.
wants. And when he provides, presides, and protects, boy, am I going to be with him? Absolutely, because he's standing in his power. He's standing as a man.
So he's talking about physical protection, but there is a spiritual protection. So he's shaking his head right now. If you don't, it's not just that. So I wanted to lead into that because I look at my wife as a spiritual protector too, to me.
Absolutely.
There's an intimacy that we have that I share with no one else.
Right.
And I'm not just talking about the physical nature of it. I'm talking about in nature of me telling her things I would never tell another soul. She is the protector of that. And there's no one else I can share that side of me with. So it is togetherness in that. So, but you shook your head. You said, no, it's not just this protection and I'm here and rough and tough and nobody's going to break in the house.
Absolutely not. The protection is not only physical, but it's emotional and social.
Emotional. I want to highlight into that right after this break. That is fantastic. We're going to talk about emotional protection.
Today's sponsor is Temple in Mind. Gazing upon the house of the Lord reminds us of the simple phrase, choose the right. This powerful reminder turns us back to temples time and time again, and gives us the strength to carry on through the best and worst of times. They love temples and what they represent, so they have a collection of timeless, unique items to help keep your home centered around what really matters. At Temple in Mind, they have something for everyone and every occasion. They hope you'll be as excited as they are to help light the world with items that truly keep temples in mind. Visit their store at the University Place Mall in Orem, Utah, or check out their website at templeinmind.com.
All right, welcome back to the Zion in Mind podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Johnson, and again, we're here with Leland and Bonnie. We are talking about a lot of things. I don't know if you caught in the last little bit, we were talking about emotional protection.
Yes.
Emotional protection. So Leland brought up a really good point in talking about defining roles in a relationship, and I hope I'm listening correctly. So I want to restate this again, just to make sure I'm following you correctly. And that is that we in society define different roles. Make sure this is roll. We're good. So we define different roles, and then we get stereotypical, and then we say, man, do this, women, do this, and go get in the kitchen and go get your firearm, or whatever it is that's really stupid in my viewpoint. And she's going to do the laundry or whatever it might be. And you guys aren't talking about that. You're talking about the defining role of protection in nature, that you are talking the responsibility for a male or the man in the relationship to have. You were talking more about the emotional protection. Can you highlight a little bit more about that?
So I need to kind of back up just a little bit.
No, please do.
Because each person is responsible for their own emotions.
Right, yes.
Okay? But we can, as husband and wife, we can create an environment where each other is safe emotionally, where we want to create an environment where we're emotionally safe.
I can definitely see where this gets corrupted very easily, because as your partner, you said a very good word, and that was a safe place. Bonnie, you were going to say something though.
Yes.
I'll come back to that.
Okay.
But yeah, go ahead.
So in the knowing that my husband's there and can come help me if
And
I
it's
need
safe.
it, then it's safe. I'm in a safe place. And we as women can function as a woman when we are in a safe place. If we
So
don't,
define a safe place to me. What's a safe place for you, Bonnie?
a safe place is a place where I feel socially, emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually in a place where I am comfortable.
And I think this is really hard. I think this is a hard thing to do because I think it takes time to build that trust, right? That you are in a safe place, even in an early relationship, and it develops. I think as you get through it, I think that you have experience and then you create that trust. But I can't have a safe place unless I trust my partner.
Right.
Exactly.
So here's an example of how I protected Bonnie emotionally. I was in a large room with her, and I looked over, and she was having a conversation with someone else. And I could tell by the look on her face that what was going on was not happy. She wasn't a happy camper. And so what did I do? I went over and I stood next to her. I didn't interrupt. I didn't save her, but I was just...
Oh, bless your heart. You can tell he loves me.
I was just there for her.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't need to interfere in her life, but I just needed to and wanted to be there for her.
So he stood there by my side as a strength, knowing that I had his support, knowing that I had his connection. And that made me know that my man loves me.
Yeah.
That he's there for me.
And it goes back to you not focusing on what you need. I've noticed that there is this in all the conversations that we've had, I have yet to see you guys. I know you're saying self-empowerment, but it really is self-empowerment so I can be something more for my partner.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? You have to focus on that core. And I don't want people to get confused about I need to make sure I have the best career. I need to make sure I am the provider. I'm power. So then I can then provide. That's not what you're talking about.
Not at all.
That's power. In the small and simplest of things, we tend to lose what the word and the definition of power really means. And then if you can't define it, there is no way in the world that you're going to be able to exercise it. So what's power? That you're experiencing power right now. You're in tears. You're emotional. You're a guy. This is power, right? Is it not, Bonnie?
Oh, absolutely.
Is this a little boy?
Oh, absolutely
who's crying?
not.
No, this is power.
It is power.
You see, and I think it started in the 70s, where the society said that men need to be sensitive, but women don't want men that are sensitive and then start falling apart. They want men that are sensitive to them.
Yeah,
Who are strong.
because
And can support them.
right,
Yes.
right, and so it goes back to the flowers. Right? We talked about flowers and giving our wives flowers because we think we're in trouble. And you had some correction there. Like, whoa, wait a minute. And I love what you said because I'm listening. I'm taking a lot of notes right here. And you said, I shouldn't be giving flowers to my wife because I need to say sorry and I'm in trouble. But you're celebrating life. Sure, maybe you need to correct some errors, but it shouldn't just be the only reason why you're providing flowers to your wife is because you're in trouble. Because I think that there's going to be a habit, a habitual thing. And then before long, I think the value of flowers is going to not have any value at all because you think you're just going to bail yourself out this time? I don't care. Now it's like 24 flowers and now it's 68 and now it's 100 or whatever it might be. But the materialistic things do not work. It's what they mean. And that's what you're talking about. It was what does flowers represent? And we're using flowers just as an example, but let's just look at what you're talking about just emotionally being that support. That is flowers. Just being there. You don't have to interject what you said, just being there. That's what you're describing to me, right? Yes, he's nodding his head.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that was a question.
No, you're good. No, that's good. So, this is really exciting. We are Zion in mind. And the reason that our team has chosen these titles, so we have Temple in Mind as the store, and now we have Zion noiZ Entertainment, and now we're creating Zion in Mind, is because we know, and I've experienced within myself, that what you think is what you get. And so as we go back to talking about how we need to get involved with coaching before, not even before it's too late, we need to get involved with coaching right now. I mean, you just barely got married. You got the honeymoon phase inside of you. Start focusing on coaching. I mean, why would you not want additional help that's not necessarily biased towards an individual of the other person? And that's the thing that I've noticed that a lot of relationships get endangered. Because what do? They look at their support groups, right? They go to their support groups. Their support groups are going to be biased towards that individual and not look at the two together. You guys are, in essence, at first, strangers. You don't have an agenda for one side or the other. You're going to listen to both sides. And I think that your overall arching goal is the couple itself, not the individual who's right or wrong. It's the couple.
Absolutely.
And I think that's why coaching is so powerful, especially coaching towards, like we get coaching all the time, but who do we usually go to? Our friends.
Exactly.
Or our parents. And what do we end up doing to that other partner?
Yes.
If we constantly are venting, it's not coaching, we're venting. And we're trying to prove our argument. We're trying to show how we are right and getting validation, right?
Oh, and
so what ends up
evidence.
happening to the other person?
Yeah.
They look like a monster to our family and our friends, don't they?
Absolutely.
And it's very quick how we can actually shape that. And then the counsel that comes from them is dangerous.
Absolutely.
Because they're constantly getting 90% of what's not actually accurate. And they're thinking 90% of this person that they're with is just garbage and there's only 10% that's good, when in reality, they're only coming to you 90% of the time because they want to use you as a vent. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Do you guys see that in a lot of your coaching sessions?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I want to hit on that a little bit, Aaron, and that is the fact that when people think that they have problems in their relationship, that they cannot say something because it's a stigma. And in that stigma, if they can't have a good relationship, then they're not good. They're not whole.
And now we get to Facebook. Uh-oh.
Yeah, well, and all the media, right?
Right.
And so if they're telling their family that they're going to see somebody for coaching or mentoring, oh, woe is them. They must be
Oh, what's
weak.
going on? Are you guys getting a divorce? What's
Right.
going on?
Yeah.
The D word.
And so it's a weakness. They see it as a weakness. Unfortunately, society has made that stipulation, and we have bought into it, that if we try to get help in a certain area to strengthen ourselves, that we're weak. And unfortunately, we have sucked that right in. But if you look at it in the perspective that you're going to strengthen your relationship,
It's maintenance for the marriage.
well, and it strengthens you.
Yeah.
It brings you power.
Right.
You bring yourself power.
Right.
So look at it in a different perspective than what the society has taught you.
Yeah, and we've talked about the oil change on the car.
Exactly.
If you neglect the car, it's not going to function in its full capacity. And we're talking about being able to have full potential. Right? And so we talked about how it's dangerous that we can get biased coaching. Biased coaching can be very dangerous. I too have gone through a divorce, and I think a lot of my own self-sabotaging was painting a picture of that other person in negative light towards my peers and towards people that I trust in my counsel. And so what ends up happening, they loved me. And so they're going to take my side unintentionally. Oh, we're here to help you guys in your marriage. But I don't care who you are. Your parents are going to love their kid.
Right.
And they're going to want the best thing for their kid. And it's very rare that you get somebody that has perspective to step out and be like, whoa, wait a minute. What about the marriage? What's her side of the story?
There's
versus
always a flip.
Erin's side of the story. What does
Yep.
she have to think? And I think my
Yes.
parents are pretty good about this. But I think having people that don't know me and who I know are 100% for the marriage, not one side or the other.
Exactly. And that's what we do so beautifully, is because we bring our strength as together.
Yeah.
Him and I, Leland and I, can bring our strengths together because we coach the couple together. So there's 4 of us, right? So we're not taking one side or the other. And just like you said, Erin, it's for the marriage. It's
Right.
not taking a side of an individual. So that's beautiful. I love what you just said.
And then the other thing that's important, I believe, is that when you go to a friend or family member, every single relationship has pain points in it.
Right.
And so when you go to someone, a neighbor or a friend or a family member, they take their own biases without fully understanding what the full picture is about how we work.
That's the key word, the full picture. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Please keep going on that. That's great.
And so we understand, not only because of our extensive training, but because of our experience, that there are dangerous things that look good.
Intentions are good.
Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Looks good.
It does.
Okay, but there are things that we understand because of our training and experience that some people would give opposite advice on.
And what a
Advice
huge
on.
value because of all the different styles of relationships you guys come in contact with. That's huge value right there, because you have parents and you have cliques and you have children that kind of behave the same way. So the counsel here might be very similar in our style as parents or whatever it might be. But you guys have a huge advantage of going from different personalities to different personalities. And in that combination together, you can kind of come to like a general, I don't know what word I'm looking for, because I think this is very unique in itself. But I think there's a lot, you talk about your experience, I think there's a lot of value in the fact that you do see a lot of different couples and their different styles. And so you said something that was really interesting to me, and it made me think about interrogation of a criminal. And so we're going to come back to that right after these messages.
The Zion in Mind podcast is one of a kind. A group of like-minded friends get together to discuss various topics and spotlight new artists and new businesses. This friendly approach will uplift and cleanse your thought process. Our family of various hosts will take you on an inspiring journey towards accomplishing your goals and help you to see a new insight to various themes. If you're looking for a nice quick pickup, this is the place to be. Together with our many experiences, we will build a Zion across many beliefs and opinions. Join us by listening to the Zion in Mind podcast every single week. Thank you so much for listening.
All right, welcome back to the Zion in Mind podcast. Again, I'm your host, Aaron Johnson. I am here with Bonnie and Leland and their Coford. Yes?
Yes.
Yes. I
Yes.
got it correctly. And they are with UpStep Development. I knew I was going to fumble it somewhere. UpStepDevelopment.com. And they are they're coaches.
The company name is UpStep Development.
Okay, UpStepDevelopment.com. And the company's called UpStep Development.
Right.
Correct? Thank you. Keep me straight. So before the break, we were talking about how we need to be very careful in who we choose to be able to give us counsel or coaching. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think our intentions are always good to get our friends or our family involved in their advice and things like that. But I do think that we need to be very careful in who is giving us coaching. Right?
Absolutely.
Because, again, we talked about being careful of the biasness and unintentional biasness. And so to kind of do an extreme to understand what I want to talk about is let's look interrogation of a criminal. Let's say there were two people that robbed a bank, okay, and they had a plan and they went in and they exercised it, they get caught. What do you think is the very first thing that the interrogation is going to do when they're interviewing these people to find out what happened?
Separate them.
Separate them.
Yep.
Exactly. And why did they do that, do you think?
So that they can get the different stories.
Right. They're trying to get one to fumble over each other,
absolutely.
right?
Get the different stories and the different perspective to so that they go against each other.
You guys brought up a very good point where you like to bring the couple in together.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so it's not a he said, she said thing.
Right.
And so as we look at criminal investigations, right, their whole goal is to empower the FBI agent or whoever it might be, and to power the situation, understand exactly what happened so they can prosecute. Mm-hmm. They are not for the person they're investigating.
No.
And we do live in a society where we try to say, innocent until proven guilty, but we know that's not the case. There's evidence going after you, and if you've ever been in a situation where you've gotten a ticket, you're guilty. Like, boom, before we have a chance to really kind of share our case, right?
Right.
So how does that feed into your guys' coaching?
Well, I'd like to back up just a
Sure,
little.
sure,
a little
please.
bit. Okay, so the interrogation, one of the reasons that they separate them is because now if I'm over here, I don't know what my
Exactly.
cohort has said, and I'm starting to worry. Is he going to spill the beans?
Right.
And then and that's intentional. So when a couple goes to a neighbor, or when a friend goes to a neighbor, what is Bonnie saying to
Right.
her girlfriend? What is Leland saying to the guy at work?
Do I trust the source of who she's going to?
And so it
Well, and
separates
it breaks the trust between the couple.
Right.
Hence the reason why coaching and couples coaching is really critical.
So here's the down low, if you want to know. Okay, so here's the down low.
Give me a beat.
person.
The down low. Here we go.
A person goes to outside of the marriage to go
Yeah.
get advice from somebody else to prove and to see
That's it.
their evidence that they want. They're
We
seeking
do it
the
unintentionally.
evidence.
I really don't think someone's going to go out there and be like, oh, I just got to prove my point. And as fast as I call my best friend, I just think it's just our nature.
It is.
to
It's
do
human
that,
nature.
Right?
It is.
Because then they'll give us more to our case and our point of proving I'm right. And then I'll bring that back to my relationship. Oh, and guess what? And they're trying to create up a gang against each other versus let's get together. Let's be wise.
Yes.
And that's the next word I really want to focus on. Are you wise in your marriage? What is wise in your actions towards your partner? In whatever form it might be. Are you wise in your partnership with your relationships in work? Are you wise in the way that you take care of yourself? And now we're back to empowering ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. Are we wise in getting counsel towards those that we know are biased towards us, or maybe unintentionally don't even know they're biased towards us? We need to be able to spot the fact that someone's taking our side. And is there danger or is there help in that? What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Well, when a person goes, say if they're ill and they have, just say bronchitis, right? Are they going to go to the foot doctor?
No.
No. And so what are people doing? People in their marriages
Exactly.
are going to people that are not qualified.
Right.
And again, as we had mentioned earlier in this podcast, you're going to somebody that's going to hurt you. It's going to damage.
Unintentionally. Right.
They're not doing it on purpose, right? So we need to look at, are you being wise? Not only, number one, stepping away from your relationship and going and seeking somebody else to try and solve the issue, the challenges, the problems. You're now also breaking that trust with your partner.
Absolutely. And you know what? If our listeners, please listen to this. If you got nothing from the podcast, I'm going to speak from personal experience. I cannot even begin to describe the monsters I've made of my partners towards my biased coaching of my family and friends. And it is probably the greatest mistake I ever made in everything that I've ever done in relationships. We need to get into an environment that's wise and is looking out for the needs of both people involved and isn't biased towards one or another. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh, my parents, I got to tell my mom or I got to tell my friend. They have good intentions for me. They don't want me to go through the D word. They don't want me to go through a divorce. And I know you're trying to tell yourself it's okay to go here. And I do think it's okay to go and talk to these people, but please be wise. Know that you're going into these conversations and it's already pre-prepped for you to be in favor. And so you guys are really trying to coach people to come together. Let's sit down together. Let's see what sides are in front of each other so we don't get into an interrogation of what he said versus what she said.
Right.
I can't even imagine what the legalities would be if you're in is that the right word I'm looking for? Where you're in a situation where like, well, he said this and on this date, and it just the divide starts, the canyon starts developing.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that canyons aren't formed overnight. It's just one little drip of water,
right
at a time.
Right.
So in your guys' experience, we've talked about a lot of things on this podcast. We've talked about empowering ourselves so that we can be able to give, right? And we can be able to be empowering in our relationships, right? Because that creates the effect of not being a small person in nature, that we are powerful in nature. We've talked about be careful who's giving you counsel. Be careful who's giving you coaching. We've talked about understanding formats and proper settings and getting together and not being separated. Is there anything else in these last few minutes that we have that you would like our listeners to have that could possibly be empowering them that may not be of the subjects that we've already talked about?
I think that if you look at your relationship and you're having any kind of issue where you have any doubt or trust issues, anything that you're blaming the other person for, complaining about, or having any kind of disharmony.
I think that's everyone.
Everyone,
right?
Yes.
She's speaking to everyone.
Yes, because there is not one relationship on this earth that is perfect.
No.
Right? Everybody has their little things that they're working out. Hey, we all are here to learn. We all are here to figure it out. And don't be afraid of that. Look at it and step forward. As you said, get the oil checked. Get the oil. Figure out if the oil's good in your marriage. Figure out if you need a little tune-up. Yeah. And that will strengthen you more than anything else. And that's what we want. We want strong families. We want that connection between you and your spouse to be such a connection that the weakest link will not be there. And that your marriage will be able to help your children, because that's who hurts in the marriage. Right. It's the children. It affects the children, and they do not have that. Yeah, they do not have that coping skill. Right. So take advantage of the opportunity that you have to strengthen your marriage.
Right. Leland, what do you think?
I think there's a lot of people in denial.
Yes.
I talk to a lot of people, and when you say,
absolutely,
when you greet someone on the street, you say, "How are you?" "Fine." Mm-hmm. "How are you?" "Good." And that's just the social normal that we do. But people are denying their own reality, right? When they don't think that there's anything wrong, right? Because each of us is human. We have our own weaknesses. What happens, I believe, is we get into a groove, and that groove is a really long and deep groove, and it's not so much a groove as a rut, right? And we feel satisfied,
comfortable.
We get over comfortable,
right?
Mm-hmm.
And we just put up with, or I can't think of the word.
We just go day in and day out with the same routine.
Yes. So
Yeah, and we constantly are talking about that you shouldn't be comfortable in your comfort zone, and that you should be stretching, and you should be growing, and you should be developing all the time, because there is no stagnant. There's always moving up or moving down, and that probably leads to my final thoughts out of gathering this information that we're developing right now. Is in the next time that we meet, I'd really like to highlight on the fact that no relationship is perfect and no person is perfect. And I've actually found in my own experiences, and I really, really hope that those that I have been involved with in my past are listening. Because first, I want to say I'm sorry. Absolutely sorry for my behavior and for who I am as a person, and I make a lot of mistakes. But more importantly, I am very grateful to you and to situations that have really been hurtful and hard, and I've struggled through, because now the experience that I have, this is it. This is what I want to bring to the world and say, I've gone through these some really difficult times. Marriage is hard. Kids are hard. Life is hard. No one's perfect. We're going to get it wrong all the time. But you know what? Empowering ourselves, I think, is first understanding that we are imperfect in nature and that we aren't going to get it right. And that if we can look back and have the atonement and have a focus on who I think is the most important person of all, and that is Christ, and try to have him involved in our lives, that's my personal belief. And I think that everyone needs to have a center of some form or another. And I really hope that center isn't something superficial or the world has put it there for you, because it will fail you. And there's only been one person in my entire life who has never failed me, and that's my Savior, Jesus Christ. And I really believe that if we ourselves are willing to approach the atonement and to come into our relationships in a way that we're not perfect, and we know that we have to empower ourselves in order to make a happy environment around us, that is extremely valuable. So again, this is Zion in Mind. I want to thank you guys for being on the show.
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
Again, this is, I'm going to let you guys introduce yourself out. This is
Bonnie.
And I'm Leland Coford, and we're from UpStep Development.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for having us.
Bye now.
Today's podcast has been brought to you by UpStep Development and Temple in Mind. Thank you for listening.